And now it's time to preview an upcoming game with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to do another Kickstarter preview. This time we're going to take a look at a card game. One in a family of games that I usually very much so enjoy. We're going to take a look at Little Bighorn Rummy. Now, as the name suggests, this is a rummy card game based on a historical fight. In which Custer is going against a group of Native Americans and basically gets slaughtered. And this game tries to reenact that scenario through the use of cards. So real quick, we'll see what you get inside of the box. And just a reminder, as always, these are prototype components, not final quality components. Although the deck of cards is very good in this video, it may not be exactly what you're going to get. We'll see how the game plays and see the unique features of this rummy game. And then we'll come back and we'll get a summary of the whole thing at the end. So here you can see the components for Little Bighorn Rummy. Now this is a game that's based on a historical event where Custer is taking his 7th Cavalry into an area, and he's basically being opposed by a group of Native American nations who don't want to back down. And it ends up with the slaughter of Custer's basically regiment, which he went down in history for. Now, this tries to replicate that battle in a rummy game with some unique aspects. So what you're looking at here is a deck of cards and a bonus card. And this card will be given to the player who goes out first, and they'll get some points. Now, in this deck of cards are several different types of cards. And the idea of a rummy game is that you're trying to make melds of same colored cards from your hand in order to get rid of your cards first and score points. The bonus being given to the player who goes out first. Now, in my hand here, and based on the number of players, I get 12 cards since we're going to be looking at a 2-player game, but there would be less cards for more players per person. But in this hand, I have several different types of cards. You'll see I have a bunch of light green cards here. We have a banner, and we have 3 soldiers. Now, these are all from the light green meld. They're just worth different amounts of points. So you can see each soldier worth 1 point, and the banner worth 2 points. If I melded all of these to the table, they would be worth 5 points if I had them at the end of the round. In addition, in my hand, you'll see some different colors from different melds. We have light blue. We have some dark green. This is a captain worth 3 points, but still part of the dark green meld. And then you're going to see some special cards. So we have a scout here. Scouts can be melded into at least 3 cards of their own set. Each meld requires at least 3 cards of the same color. And if they're melded like that, they're worth 2 points apiece. Additionally, if you don't have 3 scouts, or you don't think you're going to collect 3 scouts, you can meld these for 1 point apiece to a set that is already completed. So I could use these 3 cards and add 1 scout to it to get an extra point. But only 1 scout can be played per meld as a wild card. So that's how that would work. In addition, we're going to have some Braves here. Braves don't really have a color, but they're all the same. And these Braves are worth 1 point apiece in a meld. And they're kind of special because if you meld 3 Braves and you happen to have a card called a Village card, you can put the Village card out with the Braves to protect them. The Village card would be worth 2 points instead of its normal 1, and it would protect them from being stolen by cards that you'll find later. In addition to all of these, you'll see that I have a couple of different special cards. So for example, I have this support card, and this support card is a card that will let me draw cards from the discard pile on my turn. You can only play 1 support card per turn, so I could use this to pick cards out of the discard pile to add to my hand to maybe build up one of my melds so that I can play it later, but they can't be played on the current turn. Finally, the last type of card I have in my hand is a Chief's Coup Stick. This is a card that's played on a special kind of card called a Chief. And that Chief, basically when he's in play, is played as a single card, not as a meld. So there are certain cards in this game played alone, not as melds. And I can play this onto a Chief to allow me to steal 3 points from one of my opponents and add them to my own area, giving me more points and taking some from them. The reason you play the villages on those Braves that I showed you earlier is to protect them from being stolen. So you can actually protect your villages, or to protect your Braves, the village, and they can't be sold by the Chief's Coup Stick. Now, the way the game works is that on the beginning of the game, each player is going to have a hand of cards like the one I just showed you. There's going to be a card in the discard pile, and on your turn you're going to do specific actions. The first action is that you have to draw a card, either from the top of the deck or from the top of the discard pile. Now in this case, I don't really want this blue card, so I'm going to draw the card from the top of the deck. And we'll see here that I actually got a Chief. So this is Chief Crazy Horse, and I would add him to my hand. Now he is played as a single card. He is not a meld. There are several red Chiefs, they're all red actually, but they get played out as single cards to your tableau, and will be used to either play coup sticks on to steal points from other players, or just as points at the end of the round. After this, I can make any melds I want from my hand, as long as the melds contain at least 3 cards of the same color. So for example, I could play out these 3 soldiers as well as the banner, and maybe I want to play my scout on it. So we can see here that this would be worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points at the end of the round if I manage to keep it in my play area. In addition to this, I have several other cards that I might be able to play. So for example, I could play out my Crazy Horse as a single card. Now since I'm the first player, I probably don't want to play my coup stick on Crazy Horse because my opponent has nothing to steal yet. But maybe on a future turn I would want to play this coup stick out on him, and let's say that he had 3 points worth of guys out. I would take them and add them to my own area, basically adding to my own points. So these combinations are good to get because it allows you to steal points and create basically a double swing of points in your favor. So since my opponent doesn't have that out, I won't play it. And I could also play up to 1 support card from my hand. So you'll see this one is a support card. They all have this layout. They're worth no points, and it says that in the corner. And once they're played, they stay on the table. I could play this to take 2 cards from the discard pile, but since there's only 1 there, I wouldn't do that. I would wait until there are 2 cards in that discard pile that I want. So at this point, there's really nothing left that I want to play, and I would take 1 card from my hand, and I would discard it to the discard pile to end my turn. And then it would move on to the next player's turn, and they would do the same type of thing. Now in this deck, as I mentioned, there are several different types of special cards that I haven't covered yet. Now, I showed you the Braves, and I haven't showed you the villages that protect them yet, but they look like this. Villages are cards that you can play out onto a set of 3 Braves to protect them from being stolen by that coup stick that I showed you earlier. It protects them, they're worth 3 points, and if you play the village on them, the village is worth another point, so it'll be a 4-point set. And you can't steal it, so that's a good way to protect them. In addition, you can play these villages as their own meld, not protecting the Braves, and they're worth 2 points apiece. So they're actually better point-wise if you use them on their own instead of putting them onto the villages, or onto the Braves. On top of those cards, there are several things that make this Rummy game unique. The first is the Custer card. Now, this card is bad. If you get this in your hand, you have to immediately play it to your tableau. And when you do so, it is worth negative 20 points unless you manage to get rid of it by the end of the turn. The way to get rid of it is by playing these yellow cards that match in its color, and you have to meld these out, and you need to get at least 4 points of them before the round ends, or before another condition happens, which I'll talk about shortly. But you'll see that these are right here worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and if I manage to meld these, then Custer's going to go away, he'll get discarded, and essentially I am now safe from that, and I get some points as well. However, if before that, Chief Sitting Bull manages to come out and be played by one of your opponents likely, so they'd probably play this card, and in addition they play Sitting Bull's Sundance Vision, which is this card on Sitting Bull, now Custer can no longer escape. So if you manage to get Custer and not get the points to meld to get him to escape, before Sitting Bull and Sitting Bull's Sundance Vision come out, you're going to be stuck with the negative 20 points. So it's a bad thing to get this card, and it's even worse if Sitting Bull and his Sundance Vision show up. On top of all of those, we have several more of those support cards. As I said, only 1 can be played per turn. So some of them are going to be really good. For example, this one here says you can draw 2 cards to the draw deck if you play it to your tableau. Or we have another one here, it's the same thing, 2 cards from the draw deck. This one here says play it to the table and choose 2 cards from your discard pile and add them to your hand. So that's the one that lets you pull from the discard pile. And we have another one like that, but there's some of them that are going to be even better. There's one that allows you to go and kill some Braves or kill some points from your opponent's table. And those actually aren't protected by the village. So if you manage to get a village out protecting your Braves, you can play that card and it will actually eliminate the points, leaving that village there as 1 point alone that can't be added to. Anyhow, you're going to play on in this manner, going around the table, drawing a card, playing melds and any special cards that you have that you want to play, be them single cards or support cards, and then discarding a card until one player manages to discard their last card from their hand, or until the supply deck runs out, until the cards are gone. You have to discard a card to go out, so you can't meld your last card, you must discard your last card in order to go out. And at that point, you're going to get the bonus card worth 5 points if you're the first person to go out. At this point, everyone's going to total up the points that they have in their tableau, and whoever happens to have the most points is going to record those down, and they'll be the leader for the time being, but everyone records the points in their tableau. The goal of the game is to, over several hands, be the first player to, in a 4-player game, 100 points, in a 3-player game, 125 points, and in a 2-player game, 150 points, and the first player to accomplish that by best playing melds, getting the right cards, playing them appropriately, and stealing points from their opponents will be the winner. Well, there you have it. That is Little Bighorn Rummy, a 2 to 4 player rummy game that contains a lot of the elements you see in various rummy games, be they mystery rummy or just generic rummy style games, but has a few elements that are somewhat unique or unique to this card game. There's the Braves, where you play out the set of cards and you can protect them with a village, but maybe those cards are better used as a meld of their own for more points. Or you have the Scouts that you can use as wild cards on an already completed meld, 1 per completed meld, worth only 1 point there, but 2 points if you manage to collect the 3 Scouts on their own. There's the Negativity of the Custer card. If you get that card, you're in big trouble, and you really need to start focusing on getting the cards to help him escape before Sitting Bull gets out with his dance and prevents him from escaping, or his dream, I should say, and prevents him from escaping, and sticks you with the negative 20 points. So there's a lot of unique mechanics at work here, a lot of interesting gameplay, and I think it's a fun little game. So if this sounds interesting to you, you can check out Little Bighorn Rummy on Kickstarter. I'm sure they would appreciate your support.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Do.